Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build custom buttons within Companion to control your ATEM Mini Pro or ISO. This video is part of a series, so if you haven't seen the other two, make sure you go check them out as well. The first one is a demonstration of how this whole panel works, how to install the profiles, and in this video, we're going to take a look at how to build custom Companion buttons so that you can make your own workflow and take what I've got in this layout and build it into your own production. First up, let's look at the interface and how to navigate Companion. You want to launch Companion. It's going to load an icon in the top of the dock here, which is where you can find it if your tray disappears. Make sure that you're connected to the right network, either local or if you want to be able to control this remotely on wireless. Your network interface might be different, and then we're going to launch the GUI. We're going to launch the GUI. Just going to point out a few things around the interface. One is the emulator, which is going to show you an actual web version of this, which is really great for if you want to like control this on a different computer. Or if you want to open this on a phone or on a tablet, you can actually control this on a wireless device. Along the top here, we've got instances. So these are all of the instances that have been loaded. If you want to load more, there's like over 200. You could just type this in here and you'll pull it up, add it in, or if you want to search by category or by manufacturer, you can do that and take a look through there. These are the modules that I have installed to get my layout working, which is ATEM, VLC, HDR Graphics, Vicrio, and a generic OSC. Under the Buttons tab, this is where we're going to do most of our work. If you click on a button, it's going to load up this Edit Button panel here, which is where you can go in and create all the actual commands. This presets tab is really handy because there is so much under here that is already pre-built that you can just drag and drop it in. Before we start, let us export a current version of this. If you've already got Companion, you may want to do this before you bring in the program. I'm just going to go export. This is also how you back up the program and your work. So it's just going to dump a file out here, show in Finder, and where is it? Here it is. So this is the configuration file that we can then re-import. So today what I want to do is basically rebuild the home page. I'm going to pull it apart, put it back together, and you can see some of the, I don't know if it's say coding, but some of the programming behind it. I'm just going to pick page 99 because it's kind of next to page 1 in an odd kind of way. So to start with, I want to be able to navigate to page 99. So what I'm going to do, this plus sign here leads to page 2. And I want this button to go to page 99 so I can easily navigate to that when I find it. So I'm going to go find a new button, regular button. I'm going to call this test menu. Excellent. And I'm going to add an action, which is going to be internal set surface to page 99. Scroll all the way down here, 99. Cool. All right, let's try that out on our actual Stream Deck. So if I go to the plus to bring up the menu, here is that button that I've put in. If I hit that, I'm now on page 99. It's now a bit useless because like there's not only is there nothing on here, but there's these navigation buttons, which I actually don't really like at all. So what I'm going to do is actually just delete these. And here I'm going to add a new button. I'm just going to call it X. And that is going to take me, so surface, set surface with SN to page 1. And so now I've created a loop where I can go back to my home page. In the menu, I can go to the test menu, and it's going to bring me here where I got a blank page and we can start over. All right, so I'm going to rebuild some of what I had before. Easy way to do that is just to go to presets under Blackmagic. You've got program. So I'm going to drag in some program keys, just because it's easy and the guys who have done this have done a great job. I'm going to go back and I'm going to get some preview keys. I'm going to drag that one in. Excellent. Now I actually have a black key here. Oh, media 1. And then I also wanted a cut key, which is under, I can't find it. Transitions. I'm going to put an auto key here. Okay, I can't find it, so I'm just going to build it, which is I'm going to set a regular button. I'm going to call it cut. And I want that to do an ATEM thing. So just here, once you bring up your key down on action, you can scroll down and you'll see all of the commands available. VLC, H2R, these are all the modules that I have loaded. Vicrio, OSC, ATEM, internal, all that I have access to. At the moment, I know that I want to find something in the ATEM range, so ATEM, and set cut operation, cut. Okay, let's test this one out. Cut, 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 cool. Auto, fade, oh, very nice. I can change my inputs, media 1, and I can change my backgrounds on the program, media 1, beautiful. All right, so very easily, there are some keys that I've made. While we're here, let's take a look around the button page because there's a lot going on in here that we can actually learn from at this point. What you'll notice is that the text here is not actually the number 1, it's actually a code. And we can find this by typing in the $, parentheses, all of these will come up and you could put a whole lot of stuff in here. So we could put in like the time of day, or we could put in VLC's playlist number or how long is left on it. But in this instance, what I want to do is I want to find the name for input number 1. I'm going to go back to my instance and I'm going to click on the edit ATEM. And if I scroll down, you've got a list of dynamic variables, which is your friend. Here, there's so many. If you just scroll down, you'll find all these codes. It makes a lot of sense. I want the short name of source ID 1, which I've called 1 because that is camera 1. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back to my buttons, select the button, and I'm just going to paste that in. And now you'll see that this button number is reflecting what I'd set in the ATEM under the input label here, number 1. Okay, moving around the button page, we've got the text field. We've got the font size. You can upload a PNG of 72 by 58 if you want to actually have a graphic in there. You can align where you want that button to be, on the bottom or the top. You align the PNG. You can set the background color. Maybe you want like a row of red. Or maybe I'll make this just red. We can make this like down here so that I know that even when it's off, that it is a program button and not a preview button. So now there's 3 main sections to a button. The action when you key down, the action when you release, key up, and then any instance feedback in terms of color or text that is going to be fed back in. This on action actually refers to this latch toggle. So if I select latch toggle, then this button becomes a toggle button instead of a latch. So for example, in the off action section, if I set the input on program to be 2 for whatever reason, let's just go to 2. When I press 1, it's going to take 1, but then the next time I press it, it's going to actually take number 2. Now I'm going to show you how to do a long press, which is a really cool function, which is a bit of a workaround. At the moment, when you hit these preview buttons, the press just changes the preview input. But I want to set it up so that if I do a long press, that it's actually going to change the key input. So to do this, I'm going to cheat a bit and I'm going to copy button number 2 from my home page because there's a bunch of commands here that I don't remember off the top of my head. So I've pasted that in. I'm going to show you how to build this. So at the moment, button number 1 is just a simple ATEM set input on preview to input 1. And then it's saying if the input is 1, then change the background of this button to be green. We want to get to this stage, which is, so now if I hit 2, it's going to transfer it to 2, so I can still toggle. But if I long press 2, it's going to switch the input key to number 2, which is not good in this instance because my camera is on 1. That's what I want. All right, so how do we build this? If you're lost, don't worry. I didn't actually build this. I found this on the Facebook user group, but the important thing is to know how to copy it. And so let's do that now. So we're creating a long press and a short press. The short press works by enabling OSC and saying, yes, turn that on. There's a half-second delay, so we're not going to change the input of the upstream key for half a second. And if before that half second we release the button and it comes up, we're going to get OSC to press bank 22 button number 2. Let's go there. So if we go to page 22, what you'll see here is you've got bank 22 and there's a preview button here which simply says set input on preview to input 2. It's going to press it. Let's go back to our test page 99. But if we hold down our finger on this button for longer than half a second, it's going to set the input on the upstream key to source number 2. And then, so that we don't press the preview button, it's going to disable OSC. So what happens then is when we release our finger, OSC is not going to run because the instance is disabled, and so it's not going to hit the preview bank. And we're going to abort any delayed actions, which in this case, we haven't got any because they've already run. So let's give this a go. I'm going to press preview and release, and we've gone to preview. The button has been pressed on page 22. And because this happened quickly, this has internally aborted or delayed actions, which means that this upstream key input change never ran. It's going to go back to number 1. Let's try doing the long press. Long press, and you'll see it's gone yellow here, which means that the input has now been selected to number 2. The OSC instance was turned on, but then the upstream key input was changed. And then the OSC was turned off. Because it was off, nothing happened. And we've already changed our input on the key. And so this action here is irrelevant. And then on the instance feedback, this is where we're getting the colors in the background that show us what is going on. It's going to be yellow if the key is set to 2, and it's going to be green if the preview is set to 2. When they're both at the same time, the preview is going to take priority, and there is yellow underneath there, you just can't see it. So that's how you build a long press button. There's other buttons that are using this as well. I'm going to copy this Q button over. We can put that there. You'll see that we've enabled or disabled the instance, and if it is a long press, it's going to change us to VLC page, so we're going to load that. And if not, it's going to hit the Q button on page 22. The same thing with changing the still input. Let's copy that, copy S1, and I'm going to copy the other one. So now what's happening is with the short presses, I'm cycling through my backgrounds here. And if I go, you know what, there's 20 of these, need a bit more like menu space. We can just long press one of these buttons and it's going to load up the page that has all of the stills on it. So I can just go directly and change what I want. And when I'm happy, go X and we go back home. All right, let's take a look at VLC. So what's going on with VLC is this Q button has a whole lot of text up here from VLC, which is basically putting in these shortcodes. So if I went $ parentheses and then VLC, you can see I could have any of these ones. So I could show the item name, for example, which is not enough space on the button to do that. I've got the text queue. I've got the number of the item playlist. I've got the minutes. I've got a semicolon to separate it. And then I've got the seconds. And so when I hit Q, that's where my VLC will load full screen and I can just cycle through that. If I want a long press, it's going to take me to the VLC page. Let's take a look at how a toggle button works. Whereas something like these program buttons are what you would call a latch button, meaning when you hit it, it's just going to turn on and that's going to be it. But if you want to make it into a toggle button, you can hit this checkbox here. And now the first press is going to do the on action and the second press of the button is going to do the off action. So somewhere where this is going to work well is under H2R. So for example, when I bring on the logo, message, ticker, score, the time. So these are going to be on until I press them again, and then they're going to go off. So these are great, except when you make a command somewhere else, then you've got to update that one as well. So for example, when I go hide all, I want it so that all of these buttons unlatch. Boom, and they all unlatch. Okay, so how do we do that? Let's turn them all back on. So we've got a very busy screen here, and under the hide all, you'll see that when this command is pressed, HDRI graphics, clear all graphics, then I'm going to be releasing the internal button H2R2. So what I'm going to do is going to go add a key and go release internal button press and release or button release. I want to just release, and I can go page 8, or I could just go this page and the bank. So let's say 8.8. I want to page 8, button 8. I want this logo to disappear once I press this. So I would scroll down to button 8. So in this instance, it could be either this page, because we're on this page, or page 8 for H2R. So now what will happen is when I hit hide all of these buttons will untoggle, and they're taking all their graphics off and they're ready to go again. Now let's go to the preset page, and we're going to look at a toggle button, which also has some relative delays. Here is the pattern circle, and it is a latch toggle button. Sorry, it is a toggle button, and it also has relative delays. So rather than when the button is pressed, all of the delays happen at the same time, they're going to happen one after the other. So I did this in this instance because when a macro runs, if you run 2 macros at the same time, they end up like canceling themselves out. So they need a bit of time in between so that one macro can go after the other. This toggle button here is see, at the moment I'm on a chroma key on the background, but if I hit this, it's going to put me into a circle and push me into the top corner. If I hit it again, it's going to put me in the bottom. This button is basically then just toggling me between the top and the bottom, but in between it's running a whole lot of macros which have 50 milliseconds delay between them so that they have enough time to run. So very quickly, the first one is it's going to select a pattern, it's going to make that pattern a circle, it's going to turn on the flying key, it's going to set the fly to 33% size, it's going to place it within the inner top right corner, it's going to turn off the mask just in case it was on so that it's not like cutting into the edges. It's going to take a snapshot of set A, so it says if I want to come back to this point, I can run A and I'll come back there. And then it's also going to update the button text to pattern circle top is what I've put in here. And these ends are just new lines which help make sure that this button has the text layout in the way that you want. This button text is really cool if you just go internal, and you can change the color of the text or the background. In this instance, what I'm doing is I'm changing the button text, this page and this button, and I've got that text there that I want to happen in here. I've got a duplicate, so I'm just going to delete this. So when I press it, I'm going to know that I've selected the pattern. It's going to be a circle and it's going to be placed at the top. And if I scroll down to the key off action, so this is the second time I press the button, it's going to be running all these steps again, except it's going to place it in a different position, which is the inner bottom right, and it's going to set B, and then it's going to change the text to pattern circle bottom. So now when I hit this, you'll see it makes the changes on the screen and it updates it so that visually I can look at the bottom and go, okay, I'm on pattern circle top. If I hit it again, pattern circle bottom. The reason that this is useful is that like here I've got a whole lot of macros and you don't have to actually memorize what they are or what they do because they're going to tell you. So DVE left side, press it again, DVE right side, DVE box on the left, DVE box on the right, DVE box, picture-in-picture box top, picture-in-picture box top, box bottom. All of this text is being updated. You could also do the color if you want. You could do the text color. Now let's take a look at a delayed button where you want to run a series of actions. One of the pages where I've implemented this is on the key fly page. here on the size, I've got 3 presets, 33, 75, and 100. If I hold down this, it's going to go 33, 25, 15, 0. So it's changed the size there, and the text is updating as we go. If we look at the button, what I've got is running a macro, which is setting the fly to 33% and changing the text to 33%. So when I hit that, it's just going to default to 33. So these are 3 sizes that I use a lot. I use 100% because that's obviously like full frame. 75 works well for like phones and some sort of insets. And 33% is a really good sort of picture-in-picture size if you want that down there or up there. But to give some variation, if you want to go smaller, you can press and hold that down and you'll get different sizes. In the button, what that looks like is you've got your 33% and it updates the text to tell you where you're at. The next 2 is after half a second here, 500 milliseconds, it's going to set the fly to 25% and it's going to update the text to 25 so that you know that it's changed. Likewise, after 1,000 or like 1 full second, so like half a second later, it's going to set the fly to 15, update the text, and then 0 to 0. Likewise, on this 75, if I press and hold it, 75, 50, it has 2 different sizes there. And then the third one is 100, and I've gone the other way because I want something that's bigger. So if you want to do like a zoom from like a smaller to something larger, you can actually do bigger than 100% by holding it down, 125, 150, or 200. And we're going to get very big. Rather than those different sizes taking up the entire page, I just want to be able to hold the button down, and because it's a very similar sort of action, it's going to change it in a way that makes sense. So there's an overview of how to build some custom buttons within Companion. If you haven't seen the other 2 videos in this series, make sure you go back and watch them. There's a demonstration of everything that this particular layout can do. There's a video about how to install the programs and the profiles. And then hopefully this one has been helpful in terms of just a little more behind the scenes on how these buttons are put together. If there's any other buttons that you're wondering how they work, leave a comment below and I can look at making another video that'll explain some of those things in more detail. But for now, hope you enjoy it. Do something amazing with it. Go make a live stream. Go make a production. This sort of stuff is not just great for live streaming, but I use it all the time just in everyday on-set sort of video village or connecting a client through a Zoom call. It really makes the ATEM Mini Pro, or ISO in my case, really enjoyable to use because you can call up all of these keying features and all these advanced functions without having to dive into the software. It's a sort of panel that I wish Blackmagic came out with natively that didn't have to take all of the building process and some of the rigging of different apps. But if you know how to do that and you get that all installed, then you're going to enjoy using the ATEM Mini Pro so much more. And you're going to be more creative too, because you're just going to be able to have keying and just get things set up quickly. You know, you're not going to be messing around in software trying to work out where the flying key went or this kind of stuff. All the buttons are going to be there and you're going to get it done. Thanks for your time. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you soon.